There is a way of moving through relationships that feels smooth on the surface, yet strangely hollow underneath. Conversations flow, conflicts are rare, agreement comes easily. The person knows how to adjust, tone, opinion, pace, so interactions remain comfortable. Nothing seems wrong, and yet something slowly disappears. People who adapt excessively to others rarely feel submissive or insecure. They often feel considerate, flexible, or socially skilled. They read the room quickly. They sense what's expected. They adjust before tension appears. Harmony is preserved not through force, but through anticipation. In everyday life, this shows up quietly, choosing words carefully, softening preferences, letting decisions slide, saying it's fine without fully checking if it is. The adaptation feels natural. It avoids friction. It keeps things moving. And because the outcome is often peace, the behavior is reinforced. But adaptation has a cost that isn't immediately felt. Each small adjustment is minor. Each compromise seems reasonable. Yet over time, the accumulation matters. The person becomes very good at fitting situations, but less practiced at staying with their own internal signals. And beneath that ease, a quiet question begins to form. Not, why do I adapt so much? But when did accommodating others start to feel easier than occupying my own position? This pattern of over-adapting rarely begins as self-erasure. More often, it starts as sensitivity, noticing moods, anticipating reactions, wanting interactions to go smoothly. At some point, the system learns that adjusting early prevents discomfort later. Harmony becomes a form of regulation, not just preference. From a psychological perspective, excessive adaptation develops when connection feels conditional. The mind learns that staying attuned to others keeps relationships stable. Misalignment feels risky, disagreement feels costly. So the system fine-tunes itself constantly, shifting shape to match the environment, not out of fear, but out of efficiency. Behaviorally, this creates a reflex. Before expressing a thought, the mind checks how it might land. Before choosing, it scans who else is involved. Preferences are filtered. Reactions are moderated. The person isn't hiding, they are calibrating. The adjustment happens so fast it barely registers as a choice. Over time, this produces a subtle imbalance. Attention moves outward by default. Internal signals are delayed, sometimes overwritten. The person stays relationally present, but internally slightly absent. And because relationships remain intact, the cost goes unnoticed until something inside starts to feel faint, unclear, or hard to locate. There is a point where this constant adjustment begins to feel automatic. The person no longer notices the moment of choice. Adaptation happens before awareness catches up. Opinions soften mid-thought. Desires are rephrased internally before being expressed.
What could create friction is edited out quietly, without debate. From a behavioral perspective, this happens because the system has learned to prioritize relational stability over internal clarity. When past experiences rewarded accommodation, the body remembers. It anticipates relief when alignment is maintained. Discomfort is avoided not by resolving differences, but by preventing them from appearing at all. Psychologically, this creates a split in experience. Outwardly, the person feels connected, involved, easy to be around. Inwardly, there is a growing sense of distance from one's own position. Decisions are made smoothly, yet leave a faint aftertaste of absence. The interaction worked, but something personal wasn't fully present in it. Over time, this reinforces a quiet rule. It's safer to adapt than to assert. Not because assertion is wrong, but because adaptation has proven efficient. The person becomes skilled at maintaining harmony, while slowly losing familiarity with their own edges. This is often when a subtle confusion appears, not about others, but about oneself. What do I actually prefer here? What would I choose if no one else were involved? The answers don't come easily anymore. As this pattern continues, it begins to shape how conflict is perceived. Disagreement starts to feel disproportionately heavy. Not dangerous, but costly. The system anticipates the emotional labor required to hold a different position. Explaining, justifying, managing reactions. Adaptation feels simpler. Yielding feels efficient. Peace is preserved, even if clarity is reduced. From a psychological perspective, over-adaptation often comes from an overdeveloped sense of responsibility for relational outcomes. The person doesn't just participate in interactions, they manage them. They feel subtly accountable for others' comfort, moods, and reactions. When tension arises, it's experienced as a personal failure rather than a neutral difference. Emotionally, this creates restraint. Frustration is softened. Anger is redirected inward. Needs are minimized before they reach expression. The person remains kind, agreeable, and cooperative, while internally carrying emotions that were never given space to exist fully. Nothing dramatic breaks. Relationships remain intact. Social life continues. But the internal cost accumulates quietly. Each time adaptation replaces expression, something personal is postponed. Over time, this postponement creates a dull sense of disconnection, not from others, but from oneself. This is when the experience subtly shifts, not, I'm good at adapting, but I don't know where I end and others begin. Over time, excessive adaptation begins to influence identity itself. The person may start to see themselves as easygoing, agreeable, or low maintenance. These labels feel accurate. They explain the flexibility. They justify the lack of friction. And they turn constant adjustment into a personality trait rather than a response pattern.
Psychologically, identity formed around adaptation creates a subtle instability. The sense of self becomes context-dependent. Who the person is shifts slightly, depending on who they're with. Nothing feels false, but nothing feels fully anchored either. Preferences change easily, opinions feel fluid, boundaries become vague. Behaviorally, this shows up as difficulty making decisions in isolation. Choices feel clearer when someone else is present. Alone, the person may feel uncertain, unmotivated, or disconnected from desire. Without external reference points, internal signals are harder to read. The system is used to orienting outward. Over time, this creates a quiet loss of solidity. Not dramatic confusion, but a soft erosion of self-definition. The person remains socially competent and relationally attuned, yet internally unsure where their own position begins. And slowly, a deeper question forms beneath the harmony. If I stop adapting, what will be left of me?